Premier League predictions. Let's get into it, you guys. The Queen Lizzie Invitational, the British Super League, whatever you want to call it, is back this week. Liverpool with the opening game on Friday. And we're going to break down how I think the league is going to finish from 1st to 20th place. And, I feel like sometimes I might come off as a hater on the Premier League. I mean, one of my more popular videos on my channel was after the Euros final, where I explained how the Spanish national team basically exposed the quality of the Premier League and how it's not as good as everyone says. And sometimes I make a little jab towards the Premier League. But to be honest, I really like the league. It's one of the main leagues I watch. Bundesliga, then Premier League, then La Liga are kind of my main 3 leagues that I'm tuned into during the footy season. So although I might sometimes seem like a hater, I'm really not. I love the Premier League, the teams, the atmosphere, the drama that happens every single season throughout the 9 months. I'm always there for it. And that's why I'm here. Premier League predictions. This is the second edition of my Premier League predictions, obviously, because my channel is very young. And at the end of each season, I will go down and break down how bad or how good I predicted the Premier League table and give myself a points tally based on how different my predictions were to the actual final standings. So we already have one edition of that Premier League reaction. So my goal is to try and beat what I did last year. And last year I was very bad. Last year my predictions were in the bin. Horrendous. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Let's start with the relegation teams. Who would I think is getting 20th place? Let's just start with these 2 teams in a bundle. I think Leeds will get 20th and I think Burnley will get 19th. Now, is it very easy and cheap analysis to just say, oh, the promotion teams will get relegated? Yes, but in reality, like, you're seeing it become a more common occurrence for promotion teams from the Championship to the Premier League, where they're not coming up, they're not spending, they're not ready. The gap between the Championship and the Premier League quality widens every single year because of the difference in spending power between Championship teams and Premier League teams. Although you could argue that Championship teams, their spending power is equivalent to like mid-table teams in the Bundesliga, mid-table teams in La Liga and Serie A. They have a lot of money, but the Premier League has way more money. And so it's very hard sometimes to close the gap for these promotion teams. And you're seeing it recently in the past couple of seasons that a lot of promotion teams just fall back down. And last season, the 3 promotion teams went down back to the Championship. So it's tough for Championship teams to come up and maintain some sort of consistency and status in the Premier League. And I just think the keys to doing that for a Championship team are, 1, to have an inherently good squad already, so you don't have to make too many transfers and make too many high-profile signings to bolster your squad as you come into the Premier League. And 2, related to 1, you need to make good signings. You need to bring in quality players to try and match the Premier League teams, at least at minimum, match the teams that typically finish 17th to like 10th place. Your West Hams, Wolves, Bournemouth, Everton, etc. Brentford. These are the teams you have to try and match. I just think Burnley and Leeds, first, their teams coming up aren't that talented to the level of, your Wolves, Brentfords, Everton's, West Hams. And 2, the business they've done this summer, meh. I mean, yes, Burnley, for example, Burnley signed Kyle Walker, but Kyle Walker in Big 2025 is not going to help you stay in the league. It's just not going to help you. So I think Leeds and Burnley will both be going back down to the Championship. There's still 3 weeks left there's still 3 weeks left in the window as well. So I could be completely wrong about this. And in 3 weeks, these teams can make some really interesting signings and sway my opinion. But with 3 weeks left and a whole summer almost gone by, are things really going to change? I don't think so. So Burnley and Leeds, I think, are going to go down. Now, you might be thinking, Hokage, you dumbass, why wouldn't you just put all the promotion teams up? Well, or the relegation teams up on the screen. And that's because I don't think all 3 promoted teams will be going down. I think one of the Premier League mainstays from the last couple seasons will be going down. And I think Wolves will be finishing 18th place and will not survive in the Premier League another season. Now, why? Well, I think you have to remember with this Wolves team is they were pretty ass last year. This Wolves team was very, very bad. Now, why did they not get relegated? Well, they had a certain man's like Cunha and Ait Nouri doing a lot of attacking work, scoring goals, pulling out draws, pulling out wins from out of their asses. They had players doing big moves on the pitch. And with Ait Nouri gone, with especially Matias Cunha gone, I mean, he was the heart and soul of that Wolves team. I mean, Wolves do definitely get relegated the previous season if they don't have a Cunha. Now with Cunha gone, and especially with one of the other attacking powerhouses, Ait Nouri, the fullback Ait Nouri, who went to Man City, they're looking very weak. And as far as I'm concerned, and to my knowledge, they haven't necessarily replaced them with anyone I think at least is good enough to do so. So Wolves, a team that was already struggling, remember how badly they started last season. How badly, and the level Cunha and guys like Ait Nouri had to play to get these guys over the line and not get relegated. With those two guys gone and the replacement's not there, I think Wolves, it's the end of the road for them in the Premier League. They've been here for a couple of years now. They came up, what was it, with Nuno Espirito Santos back in 2020, whatever it was, the Adama Traore, Raul Jimenez days. But I think now Wolves just don't have the attacking firepower to stay in the league, and they were already struggling big time defensively last year as well. So Wolves, sorry, but you're going down to the championship, into the slums of, or at least the beginning of the slums of English football. So Wolves, sayonara, motherfuckers. 17th, Sunderland. I'm very happy with what Sunderland has done this window. Now, with all the signings Sunderland have made, the only concerning thing I'd say is it's a lot of young talent. Sunderland have gone big on young up-and-coming players. They haven't necessarily brought in super experienced guys, Premier League veterans, top 5 league veterans. They've brought in a lot of young talent, and their veteran signing of the summer is Granit Xhaka. Now, I think that's a great signing. Granit Xhaka is now going to come back to the Premier League, and he's going to be a top 10 midfielder in the league instantly. Granit Xhaka was playing at a very high level. Just 2 seasons ago, he was the best midfielder in the Bundesliga and probably top 3 midfielder in the world, leading Leverkusen to an undefeated season in the Bundesliga. And last season, he was very good as well. So Granit Xhaka is coming in. He's not necessarily washed. Yes, his hairs are turning gray. He looks a little older, but he's coming into the Sunderland team with a ton of experience from his days at Arsenal, now being a league winner and a true leader from his time at Leverkusen. He's going to be a big part player for Sunderland this season. With all the young talent that they've brought in, you need guys like Xhaka to come in and guide the young bucks. And I think with all the young talent they brought out across from Europe, with a Xhaka, with the squad they already had, yes, they did lose Job Bellingham, and he was a huge part of their success last season. Joe Bellingham, he went to Dortmund just like his older brother, Jude. But I think they made enough signings this summer to stay up in the Premier League. And to be honest, I really see no scenario where Sunderland go down. And I'm really rooting for them to not go down. I am low-key rooting for Sunderland this season because if you're a real football fan, you would have watched on Netflix the Sunderland documentary. Love that documentary. One of the best sports documentaries out there because it gives you insight into the ins and outs of a club like Sunderland, a team who was a mainstay in the Premier League for so many years, crashing and burning down into the slums of English football, reaching League One, League Two levels, and then bringing it back, coming back to the Premier League, and now showing ambition, making all these signings, bringing Granit Xhaka in. Sunderland will stay up, and honestly, I would bet money that Sunderland actually might finish higher than 17th compared to finishing lower into the relegation zone. So Sunderland, 17th, I trust them. 16th, Brentford. Now, Brentford will for sure stay up this year. It's just, how will they do with no Mbeumo? I mean, you guys, Brian Mbeumo was the Mohamed Salah, basically, of this team the last 2-3 seasons. He was one of the best players in the Premier League playing for Brentford. So they're losing a big player there, and the transfer window, like I mentioned, still 3 weeks away from closing. Apparently, they can still lose a guy like Wissa as well come the end of this transfer window. So even if Wissa stays, the heart and soul of that attack was Mbeumo. Now, who's going to take over the reins? I don't know. Is Wissa going to play as well without Mbeumo? I don't know, because I personally felt that Wissa would play the best with Mbeumo on the field. I sometimes felt when Mbeumo was injured or not playing or starting, and Wissa was out there himself trying to lead the attack, he wasn't necessarily playing to the level he was when Brian Mbeumo was on the field. Now, they also guys have like Kevin Schade, who I think Kevin Schade got like 13, 14 goals in the Premier League last season, something like that. I know he got for sure 10 plus goals in the Premier League. So can he repeat another 10 plus goal season in the Premier League? I don't know. You got guys like Damsgaard there in the number 10, Vandenberg in the back. So Kelleher is also actually the goalie for Brentford now as well. So I don't know. The reason I think they'll stay up is because their defense and their midfield are still kind of there in terms of strength. I just don't think, similar to Wolves, I just don't think they'll make the signing to replace Mbeumo, and they'll really miss him in the attack, and they're going to miss those 20 to 30 goals and assists that he would usually get the past couple of seasons. And they will only finish lower in the league because their attack is not strong. I think their defense will stay relatively tight and good enough to stop them from falling anywhere lower than 16th. So Brentford, 16th place this up and coming season. 15th place, Bournemouth. Now, kind of the opposite. All their attacking players are still there. I'm expecting Semenyo. I'm expecting Justin Kluivert and all these guys to have good seasons again. I'm expecting that. But these guys lost their whole back line. Bournemouth lost their whole back line. Kerkez to Liverpool, starting left back, gone. Dean Huijsen to Real Madrid, gone. And now Zabarny, Ukrainian center back Zabarny, starter from last season, gone to PSG. And 3 weeks left to go and no replacements really, or at least no replacements I think are good enough. It's looking tough for Bournemouth. I think what's going to carry them this year is the quality in the attack. While Tara, I hope I'm saying that right. It's so hard to say that one. Altara, the other names I just said, Semenyo, Justin Kluivert, they need to have big seasons here to keep Bournemouth up, because the defense just crashed and burned and they just lost 3 starters. I mean, imagine you're a mid-table Premier League team and you lose your defenders to Liverpool, Real Madrid, and PSG. That's the quality of defender Bournemouth had last season. They just lost a defender that is probably going to go start at PSG. They lost a defender that's going to be starting at Real Madrid, and they lost a defender that's going to be starting at Liverpool. 3 of the biggest clubs in the world. So I don't think Bournemouth are going to cope as well defensively this year, and it's going to be their attack that needs to carry them in games. Basically, I feel like they're going to be a team that needs to score more than their opponents. It won't be about keeping a lot of clean sheets, being defensively tight. It's going to be about score more. Attack, attack, attack. So Bournemouth, 15th place for me. 14th place, West Ham. Now, I see some people putting West Ham lower than this. Shout out Spencer FC. I feel like he really made the Premier League predictions series videos on YouTube very popular. He's been doing it. I think this is his 11th season doing it. I watched his video. He is putting West Ham, his own club, down in like 17th, I think it was, or 16th. I get that sentiment. West Ham in the back are a little thin. In the midfield, not necessarily as strong as they used to be, but they're still definitely a Premier League quality side. And the big thing I want to hit home here for West Ham, yes, they lost Kudus, but I really think if he stays fit this season, and he stayed fit this summer and shown a lot of promise in the preseason friendlies, if Fulkrug can stay fit and start up top in the two up top with Jared Bowen, I think West Ham can have a very potent attack this year in the Premier League. And I think that could carry them to some big wins throughout the season to keep them up just above the relegation battle. And, you know, the reason I have faith in what I just said is because just look at the preseason games. Fulkrug and Jared Bowen are playing excellently with each other. And because he was injured basically all season, I feel like people forgot that Fulkrug was like a West Ham marquee signing last summer. They were literally buying Fulkrug after he came off the back of leading Dortmund to a Champions League final. I think we just forgot that this was a huge signing for West Ham, a marquee signing, and he was supposed to be their a starting striker for them to play off the likes of Kudus and Jared Bowen. But all the injuries he had and the fitness issues he had last season kept him from doing that. But I think Füllkrug this season, if he stays fit, which I'm sure he will, I have trust in him. He's not necessarily an injury-prone player. Last season was just a difficult one-off. He will be basically a new signing, and the Premier League will have to cope with him. Premier League teams didn't really play against a Füllkrug. They don't know how to contain him. Him and Bowen, a front two partnership, it's going to be very brand new to these Premier League teams. So I actually have a lot of trust in West Ham's attack. And maybe that's because of my own bias and trust in Füllkrug, because he's one of my favorite strikers. He is my German striker, my national team striker. So, yeah, I think West Ham will be stronger in the attack than a lot of people think, even with the loss of Kudus to Tottenham. So, West Ham, I'm going to go 14th place. 13th place, I'm going to go Fulham. Now, I think just based off last season, Fulham's team is very good. Guys like Anthony Robertson, Raul Jimenez slowly got into form and more comfortable at Fulham. Guys like Muniz, Emil Smith-Rowe, Iwobi, Anderson, who they brought from Crystal Palace last season to Fulham. They have a decent little team here, I think, and they are linked to some transfers. They still have time to make and do some business. They just haven't done enough business so far. That's why I think they're going to finish 13th. I would put them higher. I would put them in the top 10. I would put them above 10th place if they went out there and bolstered their squad more in the transfer window. Now, all that being said, apparently they are linked to my Persian brother, Mehdi Taremi from Inter Milan. Apparently, them and Leeds United and Nottingham Forest, are looking into the signing of Mehdi Taremi from Inter Milan. He never really got his feet wet for the Italian side, and he's looking for minutes at a top team around Europe. If they get a player like that, and it's not putting my bias aside, Taremi is a brilliant player. He would do very well in the Premier League. Then I can maybe put them up a little more because they're making their attack stronger, but not too much because they already have a Raul Jimenez, and he just scored a banger free kick. I think it was a day or two ago for Fulham. So maybe he comes into the season and starts firing. I don't know. I don't have too much faith in a Raul Jimenez after all the injury issues and ups and downs he's had in his career ever since that massive head injury he had 2 or 3 seasons ago now. So Fulham, I think the squad just inherently is already strong to stay in the Premier League, but I feel like they're really missing out on a big opportunity here to get stronger and push up higher in the league table again. So I'm going to go Fulham 13th place. 12th place, I'm going to go Brighton. I just think Brighton, they're going to be a Premier League mainstay for a while. Even though they sell players off, buy players in, they're always going to have a good team. I have a lot of trust in Fabian Hürzeler. He's a very talented young manager from Germany. I have high hopes for him in his entire career. He's 31, 32 years old, so he has 30, 40 years left in his career, depending on how long he wants to manage. They have a quality manager. They have a quality team. It just comes down to, can Brighton be consistent? I honestly feel like with the squad Brighton have, they should do better than they have been doing the last couple of years. But, I'm not going to put my trust in them this year as much. Guys like Mitoma and them are still kind of going to be the leaders of the attack. They also are losing João Pedro. That is a big loss. I mean, he's a baller, and Chelsea are going to have a lot of fun with João Pedro now, and Brighton are going to miss him. Now, they do have Danny Welbeck still, and Danny Welbeck, honestly, in his Brighton career in the Premier League has actually been pretty good. I think, I don't know. I don't know Brighton fans. I don't have any Brighton friends who are fans, but I feel like a lot of people, Brighton fans, would say they're happy with Welbeck, but he hasn't been consistent, and that's why him and João Pedro have kind of constantly battled for who can start or who would start as the striker at Brighton. I just think they'll miss João Pedro a little bit here in the up-and-coming season, and I think they'll finish around 12th. And that's a good season for Brighton. That is a good season for Brighton. So 12th place for the Seagulls, right? Everton, 11th place. I think this is one of my riskier picks in the list because I'm kind of buying into the Everton hype and my trust in David Moyes. I love David Moyes. I think David Moyes, ever since he took the Man United job was just always done dirty. I mean, he was done so dirty with the United deal. I mean, was not backed properly as a United manager, and he lost a lot of street cred. He lost a lot of street cred after the Man United gig, but I always maintain that he is a good manager, especially for the Premier League. He knows the league in and out, and they've made some good signings here. They've made some good signings, and as of today, they just signed Jack Grealish. Now, if Jack Grealish can come and play to the level that he used to play for Aston Villa, or the level that he played, the level that he was playing for, the level he was playing at for City during their treble winning season, Everton are getting a fantastic player now. It depends on Jack Grealish. Like, is he mentally there? Does he have the confidence to do so? Can David Moyes get that out of him again? I don't know. But if they do, that would be a huge boost to Everton. The squad. I've always liked their defense. You know, they've always kind of been a little more of a defensive team. Tarkovsky, Mikolenko, everyone back there. Pickford still in goal. Yeah. Everton, I think 11th place finish for them this season in the Premier League. Now to the top half of the table. Who do I have in 10th place? Forest. Now, I think something big for Forest this summer was keeping a hold of Morgan Gibbs-White. I think that was a huge not move. I was about to say move as if they're signing him, but really just a huge thing to pull off. It seemed like he was going to Spurs. I mean, I could have sworn I saw Fabrizio post the "Here we go," but things fell through in the end. The Greek owner for Forest, I'm forgetting his name, was not happy with how the deal was being done, and they pulled out. And now he's staying at Forest. And I don't think it's a case where he's unhappy to stay at Forest. I think, some players, when they don't get moves, they will be pouty. They'll bitch about it, and they'll just have horrible, at least, starts to the next season because they're bitching and moaning about not getting the move they wanted. I don't think that's what Morgan Gibbs-White's mentality is going to be here. So I think he's going to be a great player for them again this year. In the defense, they still have Sells and goal, Ola Aina, Nico Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic. Basically everyone from the back line last year is still there. Midfield still as strong. The big question mark for me with Forest is the attack. Now, they lost Elanga. Anthony Elanga did go to Newcastle this summer, so that's a big miss for them. And then so that's one of the question marks. How are they going to cope without Elanga? Who is going to step up in his absence? And then the other big question mark is Chris Wood. I mean, can Chris Wood recreate the form that he had last year? Because I'm a little reluctant to say he will, because when a player just bursts onto the scene like that at the age of a Chris Wood, 30 plus years old, I think he is, I always have doubts the next season, because you just never know. A late bloomer like that exploding onto the scene like he did in the Premier League, scoring one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League last year from New Zealand, just a player kind of out of nowhere. Can he recreate that form? Because it was excellent. I mean, he was playing his socks off, clinical finishing all the time. Can he do it again? I don't know. We'll see. And that's why Forest, like I mentioned for Fulham, they are potentially looking at a guy like Mehdi Taremi to bring in from Inter Milan in case a Chris Wood doesn't perform the way he did last year. Obviously, they also still have Taiwo Awoniyi. Who knows how I think he's good now after that big injury he had, going into a coma, smashing into the post. I think he's fine now. How will he do acclimating back to Premier League football since his injury? We won't know until we see. But I do think overall, disregarding the fact that they lost Elanga, disregarding the fact or the question marks surrounding Chris Wood and how he'll perform this year, I think the defense and midfield are still strong enough to put up a good campaign, especially with Nuno Espirito Santo still at the helm. I think they'll still put up a good campaign. And you have to remember, for Forest fans, yes, a 10th place finish might be lower than what they got last year, where they almost got Champions League football. But if you ask the Forest fan 3-4 years ago that whether they take a 5th place, 6th place finish and then getting a 10th place finish, they would take that any day of the week. So you have to kind of remember where you came from just a couple of seasons ago. And I think Forest, a 10th place finish, that'd be a very, very good season for them still. So yeah, Forest in 10th. 9th place, I got Crystal Palace. I love this Crystal Palace team. Now, I think one big question mark, will they keep a hold of Eze? I think they will. little question marks about it, with a team, especially, my own team, Bayern, getting rid of a Kingsley Coman. They have been linked to Eberechi Eze. Will they go for an Eze as a Coman replacement? Bayern, for example. Who knows? The risk of losing Eze this summer is still there, but I would hedge my bets towards him staying, and that would be huge for them. I just love this Crystal Palace team. I mean, just from the back, Henderson, I love him as a goalie. Lacroix, Chris Richards. I like those center backs. Mark Gehi, still there. Now, that's also a player that can leave. It looked like he was going to go to Liverpool, but that deal fell through. Liverpool, I think, are still keeping tabs on Gehi. Chelsea, with Levi Colwill out for the season with an ACL injury, they could now, I think they are all of a sudden putting their hat into the Mark Gehi price pool, or whatever you want to call it. So, two key players for Crystal Palace, Gehi and Eze, might not be here in 3 weeks, but I just feel like they're both going to stay. The momentum this Crystal Palace team is picking up, winning the FA Cup, beating Liverpool in the Community Shield on penalties just 2 days ago, or just yesterday, actually, not 2 days ago. Yeah, and they have a quality squad. Adam Wharton in the midfield, in the attack, Jean-Philippe Mateta, Eze, Ismail Assar. In the back, like I said, Chris Richards, Lacroix, Gehi, a guy like Munoz. I love Munoz. He is such a amazing player for them, just out of the back. Basically, I mean, he's put out as a defender. The guy's basically a winger, and Oliver Glasner has been getting a lot out of Daniel Munoz. So the squad is there for Crystal Palace. It's just, will those two key players in Eze and Gehi stay? I honestly feel like they will. And I think that will lead to a 9th place finish. They've picked up momentum. I don't think Oliver Glasner and this Crystal Palace team will start off as slowly as they did last year. I don't think so. And that was the big surprise for me last year with Palace, because the season prior, when Oliver Glasner came in the last 3-4 months of the season, he got Crystal Palace playing excellent football. I think they were the best attacking side 2 seasons ago, the last 3-4 months of the season. And everyone went into last season thinking, oh my gosh, all the players stayed. They're going to continue going. Yes, they lost Michael Olise, but a lot of people thought Crystal Palace would just hit the ground running last year. And they didn't. They struggled the first 5 months of the season, and they didn't really pick up their stride until the second half after the winter period. So this year, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to carry momentum into the season, especially after picking up the Community Shield. So I think Palace will start off strong and carry out a good wave of momentum to a 9th place finish throughout the season. So I think Mateta will score the goals. Adam Wharton is going to excel more in midfield and just grow more and more. One of the most talented English midfielders out there right now, up and coming. Yeah, Crystal Palace, 9th place. Big fan of this team and big fan of Oli Glasner. 8th place, I think Tottenham. Now, I see a lot of people putting Tottenham in the top 6 this year. I just don't see it. Now, does this have to do with how badly Bayern destroyed them in a friendly 3, 4, 5 days ago? Yes. But really, I urge you to go watch the highlights and watch some of that game. For the signings they put out their strongest team. Tottenham looked abysmal. They looked absolutely abysmal, off the mark, completely bullied and dragged and ragdolled around by Bayern. Now, is Bayern top 5 team in the world? Yes. They are elite of the elite. And Tottenham is not at that level. So it's not a surprise that Bayern beat them. It's just the level and manner at which they were tossed around by that Bayern team, especially by Bayern's youngsters and second team in that second half. I just don't think this Tottenham team is where it needs to be to get top 6. I think a lot of people are being overly optimistic with them. James Maddison just ruptured his ACL, out for 6-7 months. Yes, they brought in Kudus, so I think he's going to ball out. Honestly, Kudus was one of the only players for Tottenham holding his own against Bayern, and he was getting bullied around himself, but to a certain level, you could say he was holding his own against Bayern. Can Brennan Johnson repeat the goal tally got last season? Heung-min Son is now gone officially to LAFC. I don't think it's a huge loss. He was, at the end of his physical peak and abilities to play in the Premier League and play for Tottenham. In the midfield, I think they're a little light in midfield, honestly. I do think they're a little light in midfield. Do they have Paulinho from Bayern, great signing? Is that the kind of player to get you a top 6? I don't know. Paulinho is a very defensively minded player. Will Lucas Bergvall take the next steps and continue to progress as a midfielder? I don't know. Obviously, Sarr is still in there. Bosuma's still in there. The midfield is good, but I just think the teams above them have better midfields and better squads overall. Also, with Thomas Frank, will his ideas translate into the team right away? I think there's going to still be an adjustment period when they start the season. Now, Tottenham do have some favorable fixtures to start the season. So maybe they could get some wins and build some momentum to start the year off. But I just don't trust this Tottenham team to stay consistent throughout the season, especially injury-wise as well. In the back, will Van de Ven pick him another injury? I would bet money on it. Will Romero pick him another injury? I would bet money on it. Vicario, great shot stopper, but as a goalkeeper overall, makes too many mistakes. So yeah, for all those reasons, I'm going to put Tottenham 8th place. And listen, is that successful? Is it not? I'm not even sure what the standards or what Tottenham fans are expecting. But for me, that's a successful season for them because of just how bad they were the previous year in the league under Ange Postecoglou. So Tottenham, 8th place. I honestly don't see them finishing any higher than that. 7th place, Aston Villa. I think I wanted to put Aston Villa a little higher. The only question mark I have is Ollie Watkins. Now, last year was not a great year for Ollie Watkins. And I see a lot of people when they're breaking down Aston Villa going into the season, hyping up Watkins again, saying he's going to be a key player for them. But until I see it, once the league starts, I'm not gonna back it. I'm not gonna back it. Like last season was really bad for him. And this Aston Villa team, apparently Emi Martinez wanted out. I don't know what's going on there. Apparently he was going to go to Saudi or wherever, leave the club. The squad is good. Konsa, quality. Tyrone Mings, fully fit and back from his injury he suffered at the beginning of last year. I think it was an ACL. Tielemans in the midfield. Listen, the squad is there. The squad is there for Aston Villa. Just who is going to be that standout guy? I think that's how I want to put it for Aston Villa. Who's going to be the standout guy for Villa? I don't know. I know it's supposed to be Ollie Watkins. I know a lot of people putting a lot of stock into Ollie Watkins again this year. I just can't believe it until I see it. But even then, the squad overall for Aston Villa is still strong. And Unai Emery's at the helm. And it's Unai Emery, just one of the best managers in the world. So I think he'll guide Aston Villa to another strong finish this year, 7th place. But to be honest, if there's a team in this top half that I think can really royally fuck it up and maybe finish bottom half, I would maybe put Aston Villa in that conversation. But I do have a lot of trust in Emery. I do have a lot of trust in the rest of this Aston Villa squad. I think they will finish well, and I think they'll finish 7th this year in the Premier League. 6th place, Manchester United. This is the other team I want to probably put up there with Aston Villa. That's a big risk. They were just so bad last year. They really were just so bad. And to lose the Europa League final to Tottenham, the team we troll for not winning any trophies, which we can't anymore. They won a trophy. It just capped off an embarrassing shit trash season. It really did. Now, they've spent money this summer. Man United have spent money this summer. Sesko coming in, quality striker from the Bundesliga now. Is he the most clinical striker? No. But I will tell you, Benjamin Sesko is 100 times an upgrade on Rasmus Højlund. Bringing in Matheus Cunha, I think there won't be much of an adjustment period there. The guy was balling out for Wolves last year. I honestly think he'll replicate that for Manchester United. Bryan Mbeumo, one of the best players in the Premier League flat out, regardless of whatever team he's playing for. He's been one of the top 10 Premier League players the last 2 to 3 seasons. So, with these signings, it's just very hard for me to say Man United will not play better. It's very hard for me to say that. And I don't think Amorim is a bozo. I don't think he's some bozo trash manager. I just think he came at the wrong time, wrong players. Ideas did not translate midway through the season. And it just shaped up to be just worse and worse and worse. I do think with a full preseason here, Sesko, Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo, That's just too much quality coming in for this Man United team to not get better. Bruno Fernandes, although I'm a Bruno Fernandes hater, he did have a good season last year. In the worst of the worst times for Man U, he was one of the only shining lights for them. I also think with Lenny Yoro, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Amad Diallo, Dorgu. I wasn't really hot on Dorgu at first, but he's kind of growing on me. There is a team there now for Man United to do better, especially also guys like Kobe Maino's still there as well. Can he find that form that he had when he first broke into the Man United team? We'll see. But I think this is way too much quality coming into the Manchester United team for them to not get better. So I think Man U will get sixth. And I think that's a little caveat there. Although I do think they're going to improve a lot, it's not going to be enough for Champions League. And also taking into account, they have just the Premier League to focus on with the domestic cups. No Champions League, no Europa League, no Conference League, no nothing. Manchester United just has the league title to focus on. I think that's going to culminate to them improving a lot, but not enough for the Champions League. So Man United, 6th place. 5th place, I'm going Newcastle. Now, big caveat here. Big if. If Isak stays. If Isak stays. Now, there's 3 weeks left. It's August 11th at the moment. It really looks like Liverpool are going to push for Alexander Isak. Now, if Isak stays, I'm very confident in Newcastle having another strong season, bringing Ilanga in. They're bringing in a center back I'm a huge fan of from AC Milan, Malik Chow, young German center back. He's still young. He's like 24, 25, I think, at this point. Young center back, very talented to bolster the already very talented backline. Livramento, Dan Burn, Shar, etc. Lewis Hall, Tonali Gumarsh, all those guys in midfield. Isak Alanga, Gordon, Jacob Murphy, just guys that were doing it for Newcastle last season. I think they're going to do it again. And with the addition of Alanga, if Alexander Isak is kept, if he stays another season, I think Newcastle will have a strong year under Eddie Howe again. And I think they'll finish in the Champions League places. And that would just be another fantastic season for Newcastle. So Newcastle, 5th place. 4th place, getting into the top 4. I'm going to go Chelsea. Now, it's so hard to judge this Chelsea team because I was really shocked the way they just dismantled PSG in that Club World Cup final. I really did not see that coming. I don't know what happened that day. I really think, although Chelsea was very good that day, Cole Palmer and Caicedo were world class in that final. I just think it was an off day for PSG. I really think it was an off day for PSG. That was not PSG at their best when Chelsea played them. But even if PSG played at their best that day, I think Chelsea would have gave them a really good game because that was really that Chelsea squad at their best. Defense on point, midfield on point, Reece James fit, Cole Palmer just at his absolute best in that game. That was Chelsea at their very, very strongest. I don't think you're going to get that from Chelsea consistently. Now, I do think they're going to get the Champions League. I do think they will be consistent enough to get top 4, but they just lost Colwell for the rest of the season, and Colwell is Chelsea's best center back. And I don't have a lot of faith in Tosin Adebayo. I don't have a lot of faith in Trevor Chalobah. I don't have a lot of faith in those guys to be the starting center backs for Chelsea, which is why with this injury, I'm pretty sure Chelsea are and should be in for a guy like Marguehi to come in. He would significantly bolster that defense in the absence of Colwell. And by getting Gehi, once Colwell is back, you then all of a sudden have a Colwell-Marguehi center back partnership, which is very, very good. Very, very good. But outside of that, and also I don't trust Robert Sanchez. I know Robert Sanchez has kind of redeemed himself a little bit at Chelsea. I don't trust Robert Sanchez at all as well. I don't trust him to be consistent. I'm expecting Robert Sanchez to make mistakes for Chelsea as well. So that's another reason why I'm not too confident in this Chelsea backline anymore, especially on top of Colwell's injury. But what I will say, Cucurella is really coming into his own at Chelsea. Reece James hasn't been injured for a couple months now. If Reece James is fit, if Cucurella can play to the level he's been playing at, these are big players to have, especially Reece James. Because honestly, Reece James, when he's fit, is top 3 right back in the world. You saw in that Club World Cup final, the guy can play great in the midfield next to Moises Caicedo. Moving into the midfield, a guy like Moises Caicedo, a guy like Enzo Fernandez, both guys becoming more and more comfortable in this Chelsea team. Moises Caicedo reaching world-class levels. Enzo reaching world-class levels at Chelsea now. And with the addition of not the addition of Cole Palmer, with Cole Palmer still there, signing a guy I'm a very big fan of, Jamie Bino Gittins from Dortmund. Looks like Nkunku's going to leave, but a guy like Jamie Bino Gittins coming in, huge quality boost. Huge quality boost on the wings. And on top of that, like I mentioned earlier with Brighton, they signed João Pedro, and this is a big upgrade on Nicholas Jackson. And you're already seeing in the preseason friendlies that he's just going to be an upgrade on Nico Jackson. He's going to put away more Yes, João Pedro will miss chances. He's not going to be the most efficient clinical striker in the world, but he's going to be a lot more effective than Nicholas Jackson. And with the amount of chances Nicholas Jackson was wasting and missing, that's going to be a huge upgrade for Chelsea. So I think Chelsea will get 4th place this year. Even if they get a Marguehi, I still would back them to get 4th. I wouldn't put them any higher. So yeah, Chelsea getting 4th place. 3rd place, I think it's going to be Arsenal. Now, I really am a big fan of Arsenal's transfer window this year. I'm really a big fan. Zubamendi, quality. Now they've poached 2 guys from Sociedad, Merino and Zubamendi. Big upgrade right there in the midfield. Rice with Zubamendi, with Odegaard, that's a very good midfield. And with Partey gone now, Zubamendi will be in there starting all the time. I'm a huge fan of that signing. But extra. What's that extra oomph that Arsenal always needed, that I always talk about whenever I do talk about Arsenal? The striker. They need a clinical striker. They got Victor Gyökeres. They brought in Gyökeres. Now, I need to wait and see with Gyökeres because I'm sorry, the Portuguese league does have a little tax with their strikers. They do have a big tax with their strikers. So will Gyökeres come in and score 50 plus goals like he did with Sporting? I can almost guarantee you he will not score 50 plus goals for Arsenal. But I'm very confident that Gyökeres can come into this Arsenal team and score 30 plus. And that's what this Arsenal team needs. So I'm a big fan of their transfer business this summer. Zubamendi and Gyökeres, big signings. The only thing I wish for Arsenal is a quality left winger. Now I know the Noni Madueke signing is supposed to be their quality left winger signing, but I'm sorry, I'm not convinced of Noni Madueke. I don't think Noni Madueke is necessarily an upgrade on Martinelli, and I'm not a big fan of Martinelli either. So, this Arsenal team is very close to getting to elite levels if they just bring in that left winger, which is why I'm shocked they went for Noni Madueke when a guy like Rodrigo was out there, and it looks like now Rodrigo might go to Manchester City. I don't know. But with this Arsenal team, with Gyökeres up at the striker, they do have a quality second striker. I think Kai Havertz has been a good signing for them. So they still have Kai Havertz up in there. He's back from his injury. And then big time also, Bukayo Saka is going to have another big season for Arsenal as well. And honestly, as I just broke it down right now, their defense, solid. Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Lewis Skelly. I'm a huge fan of Lewis Skelly. That kid's a proper baller at left back. Jure Timber at right back. Arsenal can challenge for this league title. For sure. And I think I'll preface that by saying I think the top 4, top 3, I think there's not going to be a big points discrepancy here. It's not going to be a case where the team who wins the league wraps it up by February, March, like Liverpool did last season. I think this is going to be very close because Arsenal have actually done good business this summer. But I think it's just not enough to get past the top 2 I have here. Who do I have in second place? Who do I have in first place? Who is going to win the Premier League this season, in my opinion? It's going to be Liverpool FC. Now, let me break down Man City. I've been a fan of Man City's transfer business this window, complete attacking overhaul. Timothy Reinders, huge fan. Ryan Cherky, huge fan. Huge fan. Marmoush is going to be like a new signing. Although he came in January last year, He's going to be like a new signing. Grealish gone. Big, 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 just big. Rodri back from his injury. Going to be there consistently. Huge for them. Guardiola, Ruben Diaz, Ainouri, big signing as well. Big fan of that signing for Manchester City. They're going to be stronger this year. But I think the thing I want to caution with Man City is I don't think they're going to be as strong defensively. I don't think it's going to be to the level that it was last year when they had their horrible run of games where they couldn't win a game in 10, 12, 15 game, one win in 15. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But from what I saw this summer from Manchester City, what I saw at the Club World Cup, I am not going to bank on the City team to be strong defensively. That's something I'm not going to do with this City team. I'm not going to bank on them to be a strong team defensively. I think they will get cut open. They will concede goals. More goals than the Pep Guardiola's side will concede more goals than his previous Manchester City teams were doing. But I just think with the signings they made, Timothy Reinders, Cherki, Ainouri, Marmoush, kind of like a new signing in my opinion. Ken Foden get back to the level he was at previously. Haaland coming into the season fully fit, a fully fit preseason. I think they're going to start the league title, not the league title. I think they're going to start the season off very strongly. They have a nice run of games in the first 10, 12 fixtures. I think City will start the season off with big momentum and just carry that on throughout the rest of the season. Yes, a guy like Kevin De Bruyne is not going to be there anymore, but I'm telling you, guys like Reinders and Cherki are very good backups and replacements. And also, like I just mentioned with Arsenal, they apparently might bring in a Rodrigo. That looks very likely. Rodrigo to leave Real Madrid for Manchester City, which is just another huge addition to their team. But I just think the defensive instability is going to continue a bit this year, and that's going to kind of be their downfall. I think that's the reason why they'll get second. But I do think, like I said with Arsenal, this is going to be a tight top 3 race. Now, why do I think Liverpool's going to win? Look at this window, bro. I mean, Alisson's still there. Van Dijk, Konate, Frimpong, huge signing. And they have Connor Bradley as well at right back. But Frimpong, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. Frimpong is going to be that starting right back. He's going to make a lot of Liverpool fans forget about Trent because he is a quality right back. I'm a huge fan of him. Even though he was playing at Bayern's rivals Leverkusen in the last 2 years, I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Frimpong. Bringing in Kerkez, probably the best left back in the Premier League last season. Let's be honest. They bring him in. Gravenberch going to be playing in midfield with McAllister because they brought in Florian Wirtz as the new number 10. And they do have backups like Szoboszlai in the midfield. Big. Bringing in Hugo Ekitike, getting rid of Darwin. Liability Darwin to Al Hilal. Adios. Yes, Luis Diaz is gone, but they still have Gakpo, and they brought in a guy like Hugo Ekitike, and you saw the guy's a baller. You saw that goal in the Community Shield. You saw it. And with Mo Salah still there, I think Liverpool are just going to have a fucking stellar season. Now, if they even bring in Isak from Newcastle, I would maybe even step it up a notch and say they are 100% going to win the Premier League. It would be a colossal failure, especially even if they don't bring in Isak. I still think it would be a colossal failure for them to not win the league with how much they've spent this summer. But if they bring Isak in and they don't win the league, it's going to be one of the biggest failures of the 21st century, really. So Arne Slot, yes, he wrapped up that league title pretty easily last season. How will he deal with the pressure of having so much financial backing now? We're going to see. But yeah, I just think Liverpool are a lock for this league. Although it's going to be close with City and Arsenal, and maybe even Chelsea can push to make it close with Arsenal, City, and Liverpool above them. Liverpool just strengthened too much for me. And I think they're going to win the Premier League 2025, 2026, going back to back. I think the only thing I'll say before I end this video that could backfire with Liverpool is Mohamed Salah. And I'll just hit on this point before I end the video. Salah has been awful in 2025. I mean, there's no way else to put it. In 2025, not all of last season. Remember, the first half of last season, all the goals. I think by December, January, he was involved in 75% of Liverpool's goals in the Premier League. But since January of this year, he's been trash. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Mohamed Salah has been extremely underwhelming. And I'm I'm saying Liverpool win the league, banking on the fact that Mohamed Salah will start the season off strongly like he always does and will put up another 20 plus goals, 10 plus assists. That's kind of what I'm assuming. But when you look at how the year has gone in 2025 for Mohamed Salah, that's a very risky assumption. Because you could say, okay, Liverpool already had the league wrapped up by February. That's why Mohamed Salah wasn't popping off as much for the rest of the season because there was no need to. Sure. I was kind of buying into that. But if you're a Liverpool fan, if you've watched preseason, if you watched that Community Shield game just yesterday, you have to be a little worried. You have to be a little worried because just the performance on the field all of this year has not been there. The performance now in preseason in the Community Shield game yesterday was not there. And if you want to be a stats merchant, his underlying stats, whatever, have also taken a dive off a cliff. So it's a big assumption here, personally, for me to say that, oh, Mohamed Salah is just going to have another big season. He's just going to pick up where he left off 7 months ago and start the season off strongly. I think that's a big if. But even if Mohamed Salah doesn't play at his absolute world-class best this season, I think bringing in Wirtz, bringing in Ekitike, these kinds of players, the way they've bolstered the team, and if they bring in an Isak, they won't have to be worried as much because the goals will have to be spread around anyway. Mohamed Salah cannot score at the volume he was previously when you bring in guys like Ekitike, Florian Wirtz, and potentially an Alexander Isak. The goals were going to get spread around already. The assists were going to get spread around naturally. But I would say with Liverpool, although I do think they're going to win the league, keep an eye on Salah. Because can this finally be the year Salah has a bad season in the Premier League? Can this finally be the year where Salah starts to decline? I honestly would not be surprised given how his 2025 has gone. But yeah, those are the Premier League predictions. Let me know what you think. We will be back in 9 months, May 2026, to see how I did and see how I stack up against my Premier League predictions last year. It's been your boy Hokage, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.